Pakistan is still not disconnected. I mean, I'm not talking about a typical Lollywood film, which is perhaps a cheap imitation of a Bollywood film. I think there are, when you see a film, I've not seen Khuda Ke Liye, I'm told it's a marvelous film, it's an audacious film. You have filmmakers whom I have met at the Kara Film Festival, young filmmakers, who have the power and the vision and the capacity to steer Pakistani cinema into glorious heights. And that's what I say it must do.
All right. You said Indian cinema has lost its Indianness. Now, Urdu is a part of Indianness as well.
Absolutely.
Is Urdu dead in Indian cinema?
Yes, there was a deliberate attempt made by governments to kind of strangle Urdu as a language. And there were many of us who were aware of this, and some of us raised a voice and fought. And we by choice use Urdu in our songs, because Urdu is the language of this region. It's an Indian language. It's a language of India. With this Urdu, Pakistan, Musalman slogan, which was raised in before we were born, and Hindi, Bharat, and Hindu was something which we unfortunately became victims of, that thought. And so what we landed up doing was, you go to Pakistan, you made your Urdu more Persianized, and you come here, you made our Hindi more Sanskritized.
Do you think Indian movies have suffered because of the death of Urdu?
Yeah, I think we lost the depth that is there. Urdu has tremendous depth. It's a very rich language, and I think we are poorer. We are poorer with Urdu being taken off from the entertainment industry. One of the greatest writers that India created were shaped by Urdu.
Sahir.
Yeah, the greatest.
Azmi.
Javed Akhtar, Kafi Saab, and you name them, Majroor Saab. Even the Shailendra was shaped by the Urdu language, the world that was there, immersed in the language.
All right, we have to take a short break here. We're talking to Mahesh Bhatt. You're watching TalkBack. Stay tuned. Welcome back to TalkBack. We are with Mahesh Bhatt. Mr. Bhatt, the ban or the seeking for a ban on cross-cultural marriages. Now, you have a Muslim Shia mother and you have a Brahmin father. What do you feel about that? What do you feel about these elements in Indian society, in mainstream Indian society, one might add, which are actively seeking such a ban?
They will not be able to impose this ban. These are the last desperate attempts of those forces which have tried to keep this region separate. But the times have changed. There's a kind of a clamoring in the hearts of people for some kind of a togetherness. I can respect you and love you for you being what you are, being distinctly different from what I am, and yet have a glorious relationship. I don't see any reason why we should be held hostage by those perpetrators of hate, those warmongers, which have only created more bloodshed in this region. This region's history is soaked with blood, and this kind of tribal mindset that get me the head of my neighbor, only then I will look upon you as a patriot, is too regressive and perverse that anybody who believes in the sanctity of life should get up and fight up.
But what does that say about modern India? What does that really say about where India stands?
You can't confuse westernization with being modern. My Shia mother was more modern, though she did not speak one word of English. She practiced her faith, and she never it never stopped her from marrying my father, or falling in love with my father, who was a Hindu. I think that the more you pretend that you have changed, the more you remain the same.
But we hear rising India, shining India, new India, and
Well,
then we hear such news.
well, there is in that so-called emerging, shining India a major section which is still regressive. Culture is the last thing that changes. Just because you get a new Mercedes Benz or you get a new gadget and you have the high-tech technology in your office doesn't mean that your old biases have kind of evaporated with the turn of the century. No, you'll have to fight them. You'll have to weed them out from your heart, and this is a never it's a process that cannot stop. It's an ongoing process.
Right, a couple of housekeeping questions, incidents which you've been involved in. Firstly, your office was fired at by elements of the underworld. Now, we can't get into what exactly happened and where, but what exactly is the underworld connection in Bollywood? Is it dead because of the corporates, or is it still alive?
Well, I've always maintained that the role of the underworld in the film industry was negligible. There may have been a faction here which may have played footsies with the mob, but the major bulk of the industry never had anything to do with the underworld. But that firing incident had nothing to do with the underworld and the finance of the film industry. It had something to do with my repeated public stance for the minority.
For the minority.
And when you speak up for the minority and they identify you with that particular community, they want to stigmatize you and give you all kinds of labels, and then they want to intimidate and terrorize you. So this is not the first time that any person who has fought for sanity, who has been targeted, and this won't be certainly the last time, but these kind of cowards are not going to rein me or stop me from doing
But
what
if
I'm
you
doing.
look at the big picture, I hope they never stop you, but if you look at the big picture, are Muslims associated freely with the underworld? Because that's what the movies really make it look like sometimes.
There is no denying that a major section of the underworld at a particular time had the Muslim members, but there are Hindu gangsters who are as dangerous and perhaps more vicious than gangsters. Are gangsters. They're not Hindus or Muslims or Christians. They're gangsters.
But why do the movies have made it look a lot of movies have seriously made Muslims a part of the equation as far as and this has been noted in among Pakistani audiences.
I don't think that too much must be made out of it, but because some of the biggest dons were Muslims. Haji Mastan was a Muslim. Dawood Ibrahim is a Muslim, and they are big names, and so it
Well,
was.
Muslim is a relative term.
And
Perhaps some people would say they don't deserve to be called Muslim.
So I would say that the film people being what they are, just would take those references for popular consumption.
All right. You've also fought a ban on smoking, on-screen smoking.
I didn't fight a ban on smoking because I smoke. I don't smoke. I don't propagate smoking. But what I was against was, I'm a convert, don't censor is what I believe in. I believe that a society is mature enough, educated, and tell them what is in its interest and what is harmful for it. But by banning smoking on screen, you're going to get nothing done. You don't have the political will to ban smoking. Why the hell do you make money out of crores of rupees through taxation, through smoking, selling cigarettes?
But research does indicate, sir. Research indicates